What's good, boys? In this video, I'm going to be kind of talking about perception, okay? Now, I need you guys to understand a couple things. Now, obviously, I'm wearing a big-ass coat right now because, yes, it's cold as shit. We're in Norway. I literally just got inside, so I'm going to take this shit off real quick before we go into this. But in regards to everything, right, human perception is always going to be caused, and your perception and the way you view the world is only caused by external factors and the people around you and their belief systems and what they've placed upon you, okay? From birth, and this is just a fact, from birth, for every single person watching this, you are a blank slate. It is like a blank piece of paper, okay? And every experience you have, every single, person that's around you, every single thing that kind of happens to you in life kind of draws a little bit on this piece of paper. It starts drawing a little more and a little more. Now, I want you guys to imagine a blank piece of paper in your mind, like a baby, right? Imagine a baby comes into this world, blank piece of paper. Something bad happens to them. Something traumatic happens to them. It puts a little line in the paper, a little dark spot. Maybe something good happens to them. Maybe it's like a green spot, or maybe a blue spot, a yellow spot, okay? And by the end of people's lives, it's either they are a collection of good or bad experiences that have happened to them, and that is what kind of dictates most people's lives. Now, this is the biggest lesson I learned, okay? Because when I was 14, I kind of reset this piece of paper in my own mind. And that is, you are not your thoughts. You are the one that observes them, okay? This means that every thought that you have comes from somewhere external, not internal, okay? It comes from a product of your environment. Maybe of an old past experience that you had, or something that's currently happening in your present. Or maybe it's possibly being caused by hanging out with a group of people that are all thinking in the same way, which then writes basically that way of thinking on this piece of paper that is, in your mind, in a sense, okay? I want you guys to kind of visualize this, please. When it comes down to you and your thoughts and the way you think of things, okay? You are not your thoughts, you're the one that observes them. Now, when I talk about this, when I kind of talk about perception and the way people see the world, most of you guys are all seeing the world through the lens that other people have kind of placed in front of your eyes. Maybe you're in college and you don't even know why, or maybe you're in school and, like I said, like high school, not college, and you still don't even know why. Or maybe you're working a job, a 9 to 5, and you're there, and the only reason you're there is because other two people told you, well, that's the most realistic way to go, or maybe that's what people do, right? But in reality, it's a choice. It all is a choice. Every single thing that you do in your reality is a choice. And you dictate that choice. Not your thoughts, not your past experiences, not the things that have happened to you, not the friends that are around you. You dictate what you actively want to do. Now, how do we start making a choice to actively start controlling and consciously paving the way in our reality? We need to separate ourselves from the thoughts that we have, okay? When I have a negative thought, I don't attach anything to it. When I have a negative emotion, I don't attach anything to it. When I have an extreme positive emotion, I still don't attach anything to it. And I especially don't take action on it, okay? Because when you start taking action and getting swept into your emotions, you, one, become a very emotionally reactive person, which is not good for business. And two, you start acting in accordance with your thoughts, which you are not. You are the person that observes your thoughts, okay? This is a very interesting way to start perceiving things, right? And the biggest thing that actively started helping me kind of perceive things in this way was starting to question my beliefs from a very young age. Starting to actively question the things that I never thought to question. Because when you question the beliefs that you've never thought to question, the root beliefs that you've always had in your life, you start seeing things in a way you've never been able to see them before, because you start thinking in a new way, because you start thinking out of that perception. You almost throw a different lens in front of your eyes and you can see the world through maybe rose-tinted glasses instead of black-tinted glasses. Now, I'm telling you guys from a place of experience, okay? When I was younger, I hung out with very bad people. I hung out with retarded people that thought in a very negative, pessimistic way. A lot of them did. And this perception never rubbed off on me. And it was weird because everybody around me would get swept up into it except for me. And I'd always be the one who got made fun of for it. Everybody would clown me. Everybody would call me stupid. Everyone would call me, over-optimistic. Think realistically, man. Well, where did that get them? That got them stuck in a mental cage that they placed themselves in. Isn't that crazy? And the only mental cage, or the only cage that is in everyone's mind that prevents them actively doing the things that they've wanted to do always, is the one that they've built for themselves. Now, obviously, this cage can be built with the help of others, and there are definitely a lot of people out there that have probably helped build the mental cages that people are stuck in, including the people above that control everything. When I say above, I mean the big elite guys who actively know how to kind of coerce people into maybe living a life they never wanted to, okay? Now, if you need to break out of this, you need to actively establish conscious awareness within yourself. All right, and I've been very consciously aware of the things that have been around me and who I am and the perception that I have in my own reality since the age of 14. Since the age of 14, I knew anything was possible. And I was very passionate about it. I would always talk about it with people. I'd always talk to my old friends and everybody about what is possible, what I am potentially, capable of doing, and what they're capable of doing too, but then they would shut me down instantly because their perception was realistic. Right? Now, let's talk about realistic for a second, right? Let's talk about the realistic perception that you guys might have on your own lives and the things you can do, right? The only reason you think that you can't do things is because you've never seen it before, right? You've never actively perceived yourself succeeding in a way that is maybe to the craziest thing you've ever seen. Right? Maybe you just haven't perceived yourself becoming a millionaire, right? So it's kind of hard to. When in reality, what you need to do is change the internal perception you have upon yourself, and then the external will change as a byproduct, right? Because I'm telling you guys can't control the external world whatsoever, but what you can control is the internal and the way you perceive everything. And as you change that, as you change the way you look at things, the things you look at start to actively change, okay? They actively do. Everything around you actively will start to change once you change the way you look at things. Let's take example problem solving, okay? If you look at problems and you only find more problems within them and you don't find and don't look for the most simple solutions within problems, what are you gonna find? More problems in abundance. Now, what you need to do is you need to actively look for simple solutions within complex problems and just have the perception that you can find them. And guess what will happen? You'll find them. Your mind will start scanning the problem for the most simple solution, and then it'll actively come across it. And it's so interesting. When you have a different perception upon things, your mind actively starts thinking in a completely different way. Different parts of your brain actively connect to each other. Isn't that crazy? And you can think in new thought patterns that you've never had before. So you can solve problems in a way you've never been able to before. It's crazy as fuck. And then once you actively start doing this, you can solve almost any sort of problem that comes your way in the most simplistic manner because your mind is always scanning for that. It's very, very, very interesting. Now, let's go back to the topic of me hanging out with the old friends, the old people that I used to hang out with, the bad group of people, right? And I'm telling you guys this because look, if you guys are hanging out with people that don't support your dreams and aspirations, you need to get the fuck away from them, okay? Sometimes there are people you cannot save in reality, and sometimes you just need to save yourself and your own perception and the way you see and view things, right? Because if you don't, you're gonna get stuck in that mental cage that you're gonna place yourself in forever. And like I said, they're gonna build that cage too with you, but you're ultimately gonna choose that existence for the rest of your life. And it's hell, trust me. I've seen people come and go. I've seen a lot of people that I really believed in come and go because they just got stuck in that mental cage and they can never get out. But when it comes down to that, the only person that can free yourself from the mental cage that is limiting you from doing the things you've always wanted is yourself, okay? So you guys gotta think about it like this. Let's just say you hang out with let's just say you're a fly. Good example. Weird, right? Visualize this. You're a fly. And you hang out with a bunch of flies that keep hitting the same window over and over and over. They keep hitting the window pane. You're like, well, why can't we go through the window pane? You're like, well, I don't know. You're like, okay, well, let's just keep going. They all keep hitting the window pane. They all keep hitting the window pane. You need to be the fly that takes a step back and says to themselves, well, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I here? What is this all about? And then you need to fly really far back and see things from a different perspective. Because once you do, you'll see the window that was open right next to the window that was closed the whole time, okay? It is a very weird, tricky way of trying to trick yourself into seeing things in a different way, but I'm telling you guys, if you can question the beliefs that you've never thought to question, you'll start seeing things in a way you've never been able to see them before, and then guess what will happen as a result of that? You can solve problems in a way that you've never been able to before. Never, whatsoever. And this is what I've done. And this is the way I've thought about things ever since a young age. And this is why people always clown me and called me crazy, is because I was able to shift my perception from here to there, to here to there, to here to there, to here to there. I have multiple different lenses I could throw over my eyes constantly to look at problems from so many different angles to find the solution in the most simplistic manner, okay? And I'm not like, some people are like, oh, well, you're just a smart guy. No, I literally sat with myself and questioned my own reality for years. Years, by the way. Years. I was not this way, okay? When I was 14, I did something that opened my mind up. And I mean, if you guys know, you guys know. If you guys watch my 3-hour long fucking video on my life, you guys understand what happened. And that opened my mind up to everything that could be. And I understood that I could be everything. And that there was nothing that was potentially stopping me from doing anything I want. And I opened my subconscious so wide, which was so crazy. So like for like a couple months, it was amazing, right? I knew I could do anything. My mind was so open. I was so excited. I was so passionate in what I could do. And then I would tell everybody around me, yo, guys, you can do anything. And they would just shut me down. They get a big cup of water and they pour it on the fire that was lit inside of me. Just drench me basically, right? And then over the next few years, it started getting worse and worse and worse. The fire was still inside. I'd still get passionate. There would be moments where I'd start thinking, my mind would start racing. I'd start being like, okay, wait, I can do this. I know I can. But how? How am I going to actively figure this out? What am I going to do to actively get myself out of this rut? Well, I don't know yet, but I know I'm going to figure it out. And I'd always tell people this, and they'd always call me crazy. And then they pour water on the fire again, pour water on the fire again. And it was a constant battle for the perception, bro. The perception of actively knowing that it was possible. It was a constant struggle of thinking it was possible and then having people fill my mind with doubts and then having to understand that the doubts that were going through my mind were not from me and they were a product of my environment, okay? And the experiences I was having, which don't dictate who I am. I dictate who I am. I'm not a product of the experiences I have. I am not a product of my environment. I am a product of me, and I choose who I want to do, okay? I choose what path I want to go down. And it was kind of fucked for these next few years. You know, I was switching in between, I can do it, and I can't do it, and I can do it, and I can't. And it was just because of the environment I was in. Albuquerque, New Mexico is terrible. And the people I was around were fucking terrible as well. I had a couple people, actually, which is sad to say, I had a couple people that believed in me for a little bit, and then I lost faith. I lost faith. And now I got like 2 people in that town that still support me with what I do. 2 out of the, I think it was like 30, 40 people I actively knew. 2 people. And those 2 people, one of them is actively doing what they want to do right now. And the other one is actively still stuck in that place. Still stuck in that place. And it's terrible. I remember watching this kid's dad beat him when he fucking would literally want to perceive things in a way that was positive, to actively, he literally just believed in himself, and then his parents would just fucking shut him down so quickly and just tell him, no, think realistically, go to college. And if you don't, there are going to be consequences. Isn't that sad? Isn't that sick? Isn't that fucked? And at this point, he has now the active choice he's going to have the active choice to be able to leave. And I know he has it in the bag because he held on to that flame for so long and he didn't let go. And when it comes down to it, that's what I did. Now, obviously, I was in a different situation. You guys know the whole parental thing that happened with me. I didn't really have, I wasn't really around my parents for a while. Right? My mom is actively gone. I don't even know where she is. I haven't talked to her in years. And I grew up kind of alone. You know what I mean? But when I say alone, I'd say alone in the aspect of having parental figures around me, not alone in the aspect of having people around me. I had a lot of people around me. Were they good? No, they weren't. They actively fed my perception with the most negative shit that you could possibly think. And I fought every day to fucking break that mental matrix they were putting me in. And guess what? I won. I literally won. I held on to that flame. So I'm telling you guys, when it comes down to actively changing the way you see things, you can do it. There's no difference between me and you. You just gotta hold on to that internal flame. And if you're watching this and you feel that fire inside of you, hold on to that shit, nourish it, pour gas onto it. Like, I'm not joking. You can do it. And it's very crazy because all the people that are in my old hometown that maybe still talk shit on me, obviously a lot of them blocked me actually now. They didn't even like to see the fact that things turned out the way that I knew they would. And it's sad to say because I still supported all of them with all of their goals, with all of their aspirations, with everything that they were doing, and they didn't support me. But guess what? it's very unusual for people to support something as unusual as this, right? And when it comes down to changing your perception, if I didn't learn how to actively see the world in a different way, I wouldn't be here. Because before the age of 14, you know what my life was gonna be? I was like a bot. Before I actively had conscious awareness, I was literally like a fucking bot. I was an NPC. I was gonna go to college, I was gonna marry someone, I was gonna have kids, and I was gonna die. That's what I thought life was. Grow up, have kids, call it die. Grow up, have kids, call it die. That was it. And when I had that experience, you know, it's really interesting. When I was going through that experience, I actively visualized a cycle of life. It was like a line. And in this line, there was me growing up, going through high school, graduating high school, going to college, having a kid, having a wife, and dying. And it happened over and over and over and over and over until it broke and shattered into a multifaceted reality of everything that could be and everything that was and everything that is. And I saw everything that could be. I saw all potential alternatives in everything. It was very interesting. Now, this is so interesting because when I experienced this is before I even read Reality Transurfing, which I could get into for like a fucking hour. But when this happened, it threw infinite perceptions at me. Because there are infinite possibilities and infinite alternatives to every single one of your guys' lives. And you guys could go down any sort of path you guys want to. Trust me, I know. You choose what your destiny is. No external thing does. You do. And once you change the internal, like I said, the external will change. So, something I actively did to start actively carving out that reality, right? Because obviously for those next few years, things were a little fucked, okay? I was in and out of everything. I had horrible perceptions on things. I almost killed myself multiple times because of the perception I had in reality was so bad because of the people that were around me. It was just terrible. Like, I'm telling you. And I had gone through so much painful agony in my life mentally that I didn't want to exist anymore. And thank God that perception is gone. Thank God I got that lens and I threw that shit away and it will never happen again. Now, obviously I was young and I was emotional and my subconscious was very wide open. So anytime I would think emotionally or I'd have emotions, I would almost just act on it, like very crazily, right? And only like I'd say at the age of 18, 17, I started learning how to actively detach and observe my thoughts, because I am not my thoughts. I'm the one that actively consciously observes them, like I just said, right? So it was very, very, very interesting. It was a very interesting time, okay? And once I started actively gaining control over the thoughts that I had, and even though I still have thoughts that come through my mind still that are crazy as fuck, I understand that I'm not them. I just let them go through one ear and not the other, right? And I don't take action on them. Because people who take action on their emotions and their thoughts are almost the same as school shooters, people who kill themselves, and rapists. Like, seriously. And when it comes down to it, I hope that none of you guys are those, okay? And if I could save anyone from becoming any one of those, because obviously there are a lot of crimes that are committed every single year, and people after they commit the crime sometimes even say, oh, I didn't even know why I did it. I just got swept into it. Well, it's because you got swept into your emotions, because you have no conscious control over your emotions, because you cannot detach from them, right? So like I said, that mantra saved my life. Understanding that I am my thoughts and, well, I'm not my thoughts, I'm the one that observes them, that actively saved everything for me, right? Now, the years would pass by and I obviously went through bullshit, right? Here and there, and the only thing I actively did, I'm not joking, that actively got me out of that mental cage that I'd placed myself in, I left. I literally had to leave. And when I say leave, the first thing I did was I got the fuck away from the retards. I got away from the retards. That was the first thing. I got away from the people that told me I wasn't capable of anything and everything, okay? That was the first thing. Then I actively started making a little bit of money, and I actively started changing who I was. The second thing was changing who I was. Now, when I say changing who I was, I went through a complete identity shift. I threw away old clothing. I started listening to new music. I started looking at myself differently, right? Because when you change the internal, the external changes as a byproduct. Now, what I mean by this is when you can actively change your identity and you can become the identity of the person who achieves said goal. Said goal will present itself. Said goal will be created as a byproduct, okay? I was able to actively change who I was, and as a byproduct, things around me changed. Seriously, I started achieving goals at a rapid pace. It's almost like thinking of it as like you have the identity of an athlete versus the identity of a fat ass or a loser. If you have the identity of someone who goes and gets up and goes to the gym every day, getting up and going to the gym every day doesn't even feel like a mentally resistant task. You just do it automatically because it's ingrained into your subconscious, because subconsciously you are that type of person, right? But if you were subconsciously a fucking loser, and that has been ingrained into your mind for your entire life, that you're just a fat ass and you're a loser and you can't accomplish shit, then guess what? You're gonna get swept into that perception, and you're not gonna even feel like getting up and going to the gym, and you're gonna have so much mental resistance towards doing so because you are that type of person, okay? I had to change who I was as a person, and when I did actively shift into that identity, everything changed as a byproduct. It is very, very, very interesting, okay? Now, making that shift, it comes down to a couple things, okay? And I can actually give you guys some tips right now on actively learning how to change into that identity, because when you change into that person, guess what happens? Your perception also changes. You literally throw a new pair of glasses on, okay? And it's really interesting. I shifted into a business owner. From a bum who would do the most fucking stupid shit all day and get swept into his, I got swept into Kihua Maita. Kihua. I started thinking of myself in a different way. Not like a bum. I started looking at myself in the mirror and just thinking, wow, I know who I am and I know who I'm capable of and what I'm capable of. And I've known this ever since I was 14. So why did I forget it? Because of the people around me, the experiences I went through. Okay, well, I need to remember who I am. I am that guy. I know I am. I know I can do it. I know I got this shit in the bag. And I started shifting myself into the person I always wanted to be, right? So here's a good exercise for that. Write down the person you want to be, or the person that achieves the goal you've always wanted to achieve. And you need to start perceiving yourself as you've already achieved the goal and you are achieving it on a day-to-day. It's already happening because you already are, right? And it's a very tricky way of thinking of things. But once I did that, once I took the first step into actively shifting into that identity and changing who I was, as a byproduct, things around me actively started changing. Seriously, different clothing, different habits, different environment made me think very differently, which as a byproduct made me take actions in a different way, okay? Now, it's very, very, very interesting when you start doing this with yourself. Write down, like no joke, on a piece of paper, who that guy is, what his habits are on a day-to-day, and then write down who you've been, okay? Now, remember, who you've been, not who you are, not who you are, who you've been. I don't want you guys to get into the mental trap of going through the pain and grind of things, because I'm telling you, this doesn't have to be painful. This can be subconsciously easy, okay? Who you've been. And then you need to write down who you are, okay? And who you've always been, and what his traits are. And you need to observe traits from here and traits from here, okay? And once you're able to start to actively just take the next step in accordance with that person, it's gonna be a little scary at first. Once you start doing it, you're gonna start feeling different as a byproduct. Okay, well, this guy wears this types of clothes. Okay, well, let's start wearing the types of clothes that type of guy that achieves X wears. Okay, and why am I doing that? Because I'm already the type of guy that achieves X. Okay, and I did this with multiple different goals, right? And when I started doing this, I started making a little more money. One, I started feeling better about the work I was doing. Two, I started getting into the flow state, which was way nicer, and things started going way better for me. I also started feeling way better about who I've always been, right? Because for a while, it's like I fucking didn't really like who I was, right? I was going through some pretty heavy shit, and I had to really remind myself who the fuck I am, which I knew when I was 14, and I had to really, really, really remind myself, right? And it's very interesting. It's like when I was 14, it's like I remembered who I have always been, who I'd been before I was here, like weird shit, okay? And it was very, very, very interesting, okay? And when I actively started learning this, when I actively started really tapping back into my own soul, and who I've always been, the type of guy I always have been, right? Things started changing for me very quickly. 1, physically, 2, mentally, like I said, 3, financially, okay? And then I left that fucking environment. I drove from Albuquerque to New York. Do you guys have any idea how fucking far that is? Albuquerque, New Mexico to New York. That shit's far as fuck, okay? But when I did this, it snapped in my mind. Albuquerque's a broke ass town. Poor ass place. I remember I was in the Uber over there recently. When I say recently, I was just there to fucking just go and just chill in this nice ass fucking crib and, you know, just feel abundant. But when I was there, I was only there for like 2 days, and I literally was there for like actually 2 or 3 days. It was crazy. But I was driving the Uber, and I asked one of the people there, Marco, I actually believe asked them, and he was like, yo, like, why do you like Albuquerque? I mean, I know it's a little rough around their edges, but what do you like about it specifically? And they're like, well, I don't really like it. It's just cheap. I was like, wow. You moved to a place where there's more likelihood of you dying because it's cheaper. That's fucked. That's so cooked. But that's the type of place Albuquerque is. It's a cheap place where dreams die. And that's it. Don't go there. Don't fucking go there. If you guys know, you just don't. And if you're there, get the fuck out. Leave. Your mind is probably already cooked right now. You need to get the fuck out. Leave. Now, when I went to New York, I actively realized how fucking expensive real shit is. $15 water bottles. Yeah, $15 for water. Holy fuck. $10 for water. I was like, oh my god. $10K a month rent for a square. A little closet with one window. $10K a month. Like, that's the level I was at now. It made me shift even more into the person I'd always been. The person who already was making that type of money, right? And you guys see the language I'm using? This is the type of language you need to use. No more ifs. No more there's just no more ifs. Like, no more like if I become that person or when I become that person. You already are that type of person. You need to think as if you are, and if you do, things will change. Okay, it's very weird. New York, new identity, changed clothes, all this shit, right? It's not new identity, but it's the identity of me. Right? Because you guys need to be your own individual. Don't strive towards other people's shit. Don't look at blue shirt man and start wearing blue shirts and fucking linen and be a faggot, okay? Be who you've always wanted to be. Be yourself, okay? And be the best that you could always be. And that's what I'm always evolving into, is the best version of me that's always been there, that I'm just looking inwards and uncovering more and more of. Yeah, very interesting. Boom! I go from New York to Dubai. When I did this, I actively had $2,000 in my bank. Very crazy, right? But I did this because I took a step in accordance with the version of me that's making $100,000 a month already, right? And I already knew that month I was gonna make 100K that month. And you know, it's crazy, in physical reality, I didn't manifest 100K that month. I manifested like around like 58,000. It was like around 60,000 that month. I can go back and check the exact amount, but it was around 58 to 60 grand that month of being in Dubai. And then after Dubai, I went right over to Greece, which was very interesting. I met Blue Shirt Man both times, and I thought both times that he was still running his agency. So both times I was like, oh bro, gee, even though I was just doing all the shit myself. It was crazy. And it was really interesting. I was taking steps in accordance with the guy I'd always wanted to be, and the guy I'd already known I could be, and the guy I already was. Very, very, very interesting way of thinking, right? But when you can actively shift your perception into the shoes of that person, you start taking steps as that person, things change. I'm telling you. And that's the reason why I started making so much money very, very, very quickly. Obviously, there are a lot of other reasons. I have a lot of other active systems that I was actively running that made it very, very, very crazy for me to start making a fucking ton of cash, okay? Especially with the amount of volume I was putting in. But guess what? I was putting in so much volume and so much work, but the work that I was putting in was easy and fun because guess what? The perception I had on it was fucking incredible. Because I'm telling you guys, the work that I do, you guys might actively view as hell. And if you guys did, you guys might feel like it's hell because the perception you have on it is hell. The perception I have on it, it's easy. And that's it. That's all it is. So this whole video, and the whole reason I'm even making this video, is to help you guys see things in a different way. Or help you guys at least start to see things in a different way. Because if you guys actively can, then everything will actively change in your life as a byproduct, okay? Yes, there are more things I can get into in regards to manifestation. Yes, I will make more videos on that. But this is the first thing you need to change, is your perception and the way you see the world. Because like I already said in this video, when you change the way you see the world, the things you actively are looking at change as a byproduct, okay? And besides that, I'm gonna conclude this video. I'm telling you guys, every single person watching this has the capability to change their perception on everything. And if you guys do, like I said, everything will change as a byproduct, okay? And that's it. So I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. I'm fucking excited to see you guys in the next video. And I'm telling you guys, from the bottom of my heart, every single one of you is actively capable of doing anything that you believe and that you know is actively possible. If you can close your mind and you can see it, it's there. And there's a potential alternative out there waiting for you to basically just go in and grab. Imagine, real quick, imagine reality is like a grocery store. You can walk in and choose anything you want, but the only limitation that you have is the one that you maybe placed yourself in, and that's it. So besides that, I'm gonna see you guys in the next video, and and peace out. And besides that, I will see you guys in the next video. And like I said, if you guys have any other questions or anything regarding anything, agency systems, how to actively change the way you see things, how to actively shift into the identity of who you've always been, then obviously my Instagram is here, and you can obviously go into the description and check out my Instagram. If you guys are interested also in my full life story as well, I have a full-blown YouTube video. It's 3 hours long. Yes, it's long as fuck. Recommend watching it on like a road trip or something. And yeah, if you guys are interested in actively seeing that, then go down in the description, click on it, and I'll see you guys on the other side.